this contour right here, and I'm saying it's just a little bit thin compared to the 455 varminter that I had. You know, even back here, it's just a little bit thin. I wish it was a little thicker. I wanted the heaviest model that I could get, and this is in fact the heaviest model that I could get. Not just for bench rest, but mostly, you know, to deal with the harmonic resonance, try to mute the rifle, make it as dead as possible. Perhaps that's helped with this. I mean, it certainly doesn't recoil. It certainly doesn't move. It's a little over 7.5 pounds as a bear rifle, which is good because I'm going to throw on some other heavy stuff on there, right, to try to make it not move, very stable. Great for NRL 22, long range shooting, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of what I wanted this for. So enough blabbing about that. Let me tell you about the rifle, what I've done to it, what I've experienced with it so far. So pretty much stock, same barrel, no aftermarket barrel, same bolt, but the bolt handle I did change out. That's an Area 419 bolt handle. They're really affordable. It's pretty cheap. Makes a big difference. I really like the 70-degree throw in here versus the old 90-degree throw that, or I can't remember what the degree change is. It's a significant reduction. I think it's a 60 or 70-degree throw right now, but whatever that is, that reduction allows you a lot more forgiving space in here. If you're going to have an ocular bell that's bigger than what I'm running right now even, it's not going to run into that. You're not going to have issues with the rail. Your hand has lots of room there, but with the addition of a longer bolt and a larger bolt, it just makes it so quick because CZs lock up tight. I don't know if you've ever shot one before, but let me tell you, they lock up tight, and so it is a little bit heavier of a bolt lift on the release. After you fire that round, it's a little heavier, and it's nice to have the leverage on there. I like personally that CZs lock up so tight. For the price, I think they're some of the most accurate rifles that you can get. Actually, I'm fairly confident they are either one of the top, one or two most accurate rifles you can get for the price. I just don't see anything else in competition touching them, especially with if you're going to be a bulk box shooter. These are phenomenal rifles. The chambers, the way that they're cut and all that kind of stuff does really well. Anyways, the new change here with that bolt is that in order to release your bolt, there's a little side release mechanism rather than pulling the trigger like I had to in the past. So you just press that little button right there, pops right out. I like that. It makes it a little easier. You don't have to be, putting your finger on the trigger, which is great to release it. Also, that eliminates the old interference you would have with lightening your trigger up too much. If you were to lighten it up too much, you would have issues, we'll just say, with the bolt coming out or light strikes and whole mess of things. This actually alleviates some of those problems. Speaking of the trigger weight, that's the next change that I made to the rifle. The trigger did come with something that was adjustable down to like 2.5 pounds maybe on a good day. I was not content with that trigger. For a $600 .22 rifle, this should have come with something that was adjustable down to 1.5 pounds as a minimum. That's what we're going to see with like cheap brands like Savage and things like that. They can get those triggers down quite a bit lighter. This one, it's self-adjustable for pre-travel, over-travel. That's great. I appreciate that to a certain degree, but a light trigger is what most people want, or at least accessibility to a light trigger. And at this point in the market, 2.5 pounds just isn't going to cut it. It's got to be lighter than that. And so I did change that spring out, and then I actually heavied it up a little bit because it was so light. I'm not sure if it's drop safe, but I don't mess around with loaded rifles doing too much stupid stuff. When I'm doing NRL 22, when I do my transitions, the bolt is open. When I'm hunting, most of the time I'm in a fixed position. I'm not going to walk around and hunt. So for you who are concerned about that, don't go with the light trigger. For me, it's fantastic and I love it. It has substantially added benefit to my group shooting. I'll get to that in a little bit. Another modification I made is just a barricade rest. That's just something I like. The balance of the rifle, I can tell you, is pretty much right here. That's where the balance of the rifle is. Now I'm wearing other stuff on this rifle which makes it balanced that way. Obviously the scope and the bipod are a considerable factor in that, but I like that it rests right there. When I've done NRL 22 stages, it's just been convenient that I know exactly where that rest is and it's not over the magazine. Other 22s I've had, it's been right on the magazine, which is very inconvenient if you're going to do a mag change in the middle of a stage or something like that. You run out of ammo. I like that I can rest a little further forward on the barricade or whatever it is I'm shooting and still access this and not have to worry about depressing the magazine. I've seen guys drop their mags out. They've put extended latches on these magazines because they are kind of hard to get out. It's kind of tiny. All right, I'll show you some video. It's not a big area to go ahead and get your magazine out, put it back in. The latch could be bigger for some folks. For me, it's fine, and I appreciate that I'm not depressing it during a stage and it's accidentally dropping out. Moving on, another thing I had to add on to the rifle is just this Picatinny adapter. It's a swivel stud adapter with Picatinny in just one portion up here. Unfortunately, you know, this stock is just a little short. I do wish it was another 3 inches longer, that it went out here, more like a precision stock. If it went out just a little further and had options for a QD, because you have a QD in the rear, if you can see this, for a sling. It would be kind of nice if we saw another QD somewhere up here. If they had put that in and it was a little longer, gives you a little extra reach on that bipod for stability, all the things that you guys already know. It would be nice if that came with the rifle, but as it came, it just came with a normal old, you know, swivel stud right up here. I guess that's okay. This works really well though. I'm surprised it's so tight fitting. On my other rifles, it seemed like they loosened up. This one, it's really tight. Looks like the ergonomics of this more flat surface on the bottom of this Boyd stock kind of received that well. So if you're interested in that, you know, it's not a perfect fit, it's not 100% flush, that might really bother you. For me, it's about function for the most part, and it does really well. I've got an Atlas bipod on here that I'll talk about in another review. Other than that, one person had commented in a previous video about this. Go ahead and check that out. That'll drive most of you nuts. Let me drop it down a click here. Alright, so now it's still moving. Bring it down one more click. Still moving, yes. I will say that this Boyd's stock has some issues. It is not super tight fitting. I don't love the way that they went about this. It seems a little chintzy. It does work though. So there's what I'll have to say about that. It does work. One thing, since I'm running my scope up pretty high in some AR mounts, I needed an extra 20 MOA, so I'm working through that right now. I did grind out one more line in this piece, and so it still fits in here when I have to clean the rifle and I want to push it all the way down so it's flat like that. I can take my bolt out and clean my rifle. That doesn't interfere. And then when I want to get back up to that same spot, I could either go about there or one down. It does the trick for me. It's pretty high, I recognize that. It's higher than most people would like, but I also have a 30 MOA rail and a 20 MOA rail. And that's what I'm trying to do to get the most usage out of these turrets. When you're shooting to 625 yards, which I shoot out to 627, okay, that's the furthest that I'm shooting this rifle right now. It's 40 milliradians of travel. I need all that I can get out of the turrets. There's a little more in there, but all that I can get out of the turrets, and I have to use all of my holdover. And if I have a wind from the rear, which is putting an effect on that bullet, if I have a wind from the rear towards the target, then I have to hold over even more, and I'm about 8 or 9 power on the scope, so it's pretty crazy. Anyways, a couple things that I've had to do so that I could both shoot close and really, really, really far. What do I think of the rifle? I should probably talk about that. Overall, I'll assess the stock a little differently than I will the upper. The stock, I like the pistol grip. That's what I'll tell you. I really like the pistol grip. The wood grain, it does catch your eye. A lot of people have commented and said it's a beautiful rifle. And these are people who see lots of rifles, and they think the stock is pretty good. I think Boyd's did better to smooth out a few parts here and there. It looks like I don't see as many sharp edges as I did in the past on other Boyd stocks. I wish that it came with a Picatinny piece in the rear and that they had more accessories. It's like near impossible to find some of these things. I don't know if they're just not making them, if they don't have the resources or the know-how or the know-why to produce them, but it would be great to have a monopod option in the rear or a bag rider. So depending on what kind of shooter you are, if you're more like a bench shooter, you probably like a straight flat piece here. And this would be so easy, guys. Boyd's, listen up. It would be so easy to make a bag rider attachment that you produce and sell for 10 bucks, just a piece of plastic that makes this flat right here, even if it had to attach to this swivel stud in the rear. Something like that would be better than nothing. Right now, as it is, so it's fine. It receives a bag in the rear just fine. for most things. When I'm shooting off the prone or a bench, it would just be nice to have a big rider attachment in the rear, and it's something that I would personally buy. Moving on. Okay, so the actual stock itself it's decent. It's not amazing. I would prefer the chassis now that I kind of know the differences. I think the chassis would be better, but even the chassis is a little shorter than I want. I want that chassis to reach out so this bipod can get the full stability factor. I do like the look of the wood for some reason. I like the weight of the wood, which is really the reason I went with it. It's heavier, so that's what I like. The action itself. Alright, so I did look in the chamber when I first got the rifle, look down the barrel as much as I could, kind of just get a good idea if there's any leftover milling marks or if there's anything that just shouldn't be there. It seems clean, it seems good. I've never had feeding issues with the rifle except for when I use a 25 round magazine. Now those 25 round magazines, they're advertised as for the 452, the 455. I did not see an advertisement that they work with 457. As long as I load around 18 rounds, it works well. When I try to go a full 25, it does not work well. It seems to jam on the first 6 or so. And so I'll say about 18 rounds, this works with a 25 rounder. It kind of comes real close to the bottom here with my Atlas. Big old banana magazine. The barrel contour, it seems to mute the vibration pretty well. I have no problems with that. I do wish it was thicker just because of the weight aspect. I like the look of thicker barrels, but I can't say that a thicker barrel would do anything that this is not already doing. That's my opinion about that, I guess. It's a 1/2x28, by the way, if you were curious. So Americans, you're good to go. As far as the lock up here now, like I said, you do have to break these CZs in, especially if you have a magazine in there. They come a little tight. I use some Slick 2000, and that's kind of like my go-to lube for guns. I like Slick 2000 when I shoot and it's really cold out. If it's 10 degrees out or colder, any of that jelly stuff does not do well. It has to be something like Slick 2000. The oil-based types work really nicely on these bolts, and I like it. I think the bolt locks up tight. I think it gives good pressure, and it's even on most of the rounds. I don't see any signs of anything else, I guess. It's as much as I know how to comment on. The barrel seems accurate. It seems pretty accurate. The problem that I'm having is wind. Man, like I would have given you some groups today, but it was 12 to 18 mile an hour winds out there. It was crazy. I just can't produce good groups. I was shooting at 200 yards today. I was getting about 6-inch groups. That's not a good representation of what the rifle can do at 200 yards. Now, for 12 to 18 mile an hour winds, I was actually okay with that, to be honest with you. It was just fine. On a totally windless day, here's the accuracy potential of the rifle. Using SK Match, I'm seeing about at 100 yards, and let's just get the provisos out of the way. Let's say that you're a good shooter who understands the fundamentals, you're extremely rested, you're shooting at 100 yards exactly, you have a very, very, very good optic, you're using match ammo, and you're not messing up the shots. If you get all the stars to align, yeah, it seems like it's about a half MOA rifle. Half to 3/4. It's so hard to tell with the ammo. I don't want to do a review of ammo, I want to know what the rifle can do. There's usually a flyer in there that's either wind related or me, and I don't know how to account for that or what to say, but when you go to even like 10 round groups, it's really tight, guys. Really, really tight. I'm impressed. This particular model probably though is not more accurate than the 20-inch model. So there's my opinion. Between shooting at 300 and 600 yards, I do not see a difference in accuracy potential at all. I don't think that it's stabilizing the bullet more. I used to think so. I was hoping so, actually. I don't think it is. I don't think there's any difference with the longer barrel. I know some of the best barrels that are made by 22 companies, the ones that are winning competitions and the ones that we're seeing in bench rest specifically. Those are very long barrels. Those are like 24-inch barrels. And sometimes that's because they need the sight radius with open sights. Sometimes I think the weight is beneficial, but as far as stability at ELR distances, I'm just not seeing it. I would have been fine with a 20-inch model. I don't need the 24-inch model, unless, again, balance is the thing that you care about. For me, I kind of like it. People certainly have questions. Lots of questions when you show up to the range with the 24-inch barreled 22, especially if you put a can on here that's like an 8-inch can. This operation is enormous. It's so long. Yeah, I'm happy with the accuracy. The thing that I think I should tell you though, that I've noticed, and this is a big difference between my 16-inch, my 22-inch, and my 24-inch CZ22 I've had, this one is the most particular. It is extremely particular for ammo and for cleaning. I know a lot of guys don't understand cleaning regimens for 22, and they're like, I haven't cleaned my rifle in 3 years, and you know, that's stupid. Here's the truth. If you want that peak performance, if you want to be shooting 1/2-inch to 1-inch size groups at 100 yards, 1-inch width bulk box for me, I have to clean the rifle barrel every 200 rounds. With my old CZs, it was, you know, like, it was apparent that I should probably clean it. I would start to see a few more flyers. With this, it's very noticeable. Very, very noticeable. I would even say probably every 150 rounds, I'm noticing I should really clean it if I want to keep up that max performance. Now, if you're just shooting bulk box, you shoot lead, you just don't care, you'll probably still notice something, but you won't notice as much if you're just spinning little targets and shooting steel or whatever. But paper shooters, group shooters, people are shooting ILR distances, you know, past, let's say, 250, 300 yards. If you're shooting past that distance, I really think you'll notice, because I do. It's like a steep contrast. All of a sudden, I'll be shooting pretty well, and it just goes away. It's horrible. My groups open up enormously. This is a very sensitive barrel. And so that's one thing I think I should throw out there, is the difference between this 24-inch barrel and my old 16-inch barrel. It's night and day for cleaning. I really, really notice how sensitive this one is. All right, a couple closing comments real quickly. This is getting to be a long video. They always are. The safety, sure, cool. I do not care. I was so used to using that rear tang safety, one that hung off the back of the bolt. It didn't bother me. I think this is CZ's attempt just to try to get a little bit modernized. So I'll finish with these thoughts about modernizing rifles like this. First of all, CZ, I would say there is a market for people who want to see a longer handguard, handrail, forearm, whatever, something longer, okay? On top of that, this should have Picatinny. This is just the standard, or some sort of Arca Swiss attachment. We could even go ahead of the game here. I think Arca Swiss will be kind of the proprietary invention or technology for the future. People will mostly desire something like Arca Swiss because it's convenience. We should see something like that in here, and lots of room to move on these kind of stocks. I think CZ should have maybe inspected these stocks a little more so we didn't have loose parts. It's just kind of unacceptable. The trigger definitely is a little too heavy. It's great. They did a really good job in allowing us to take up that pre-travel and post-travel, the over-travel. It's just not light enough. In the American market, we're all switching out our triggers. I know in Europe with lots of hunters, mainly people with hunters mindsets, it's not a thing for them, but for us, it's definitely a thing. We want lighter triggers, otherwise we're just going to keep buying aftermarket triggers. I already paid $600 for the gun. Make it adjustable, very light or a little heavier. I'm not sure if that's an insurance thing on your part or not, but it's such a great rifle, and it proves itself more and more when you're able to lighten up that trigger a little bit with target practice. And the same thing I've been saying for years and years and years, and CZ is still not doing it. I don't know why. There's two big problems with this rail. So I have a 30 MOA rail on here, which is an adapter from Dovetail. So it's Dovetail to Picatinny. It does not come with this Picatinny rail, guys. I don't understand why CZ is doing this. It makes no sense to me at all, but there should be Picatinny underneath this. It shouldn't be Dovetail. And on top of that, there should be an extension forward. This is really a problem for most people. You get your optic up so high, if you're going to put a serious optic on a rifle especially, you get such a scope gap in here. I have about a quarter, well, probably 3/8 of an inch scope gap in here because I'm using an AR mount, but I have to cantilever it forward because of the eye relief issue with the short stock. Again, 5'10" guys maybe wouldn't complain so much, but most people are really bothered that it's coming with Dovetail. You know, I just have to say, it's 2021 almost, and Dovetail is ancient technology. We should not be seeing that on there. It's nice that you put an addition of a couple divots in there so that you can put a tensioning screw I know DIP, that company uses stuff like that. Most people are just using side tension Allen screws like this. It doesn't make sense to me at all why CZ keeps doing that. So that's one gripe I have. I am a little bitter about it because it just adds more work for people like me. But at the end of the day, for 600 bucks, I have to admit, I don't think there's a better rifle on the market. I think this is one of the most accurate that you're going to find. If you're looking for a heavier rifle like I was, this is a nice heavy rifle. If you're just looking for hunting, rigs, that's not what my channel is really about. It's not what I talk about a lot. You'll have to check out somebody else's channel for that. But as far as being stationary or shooting NRL 22, having a really solid rifle, this thing is phenomenal. I'm a big fan. I will not be passing it on down the line anytime soon. I'm only about probably 4,000 rounds into the rifle because of the ammo shortage right now. And so that's as far as I can really comment on at this point. I'll give you guys an update in the future if anything bad happens, anything good happens, or if I make a change to it. I'll let you know. Thanks guys, like, share, subscribe.